Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Chuck calls on unvaccinated parents and children to take the jab to facilitate the return to in-person classes. Cabinet Minister Delroy Chuck is calling on unvaccinated parents and their children to take the jab in the interest of them returning to school in the new year. Mr. Chuck, who is the Justice Minister, made the call while speaking Friday morning at the official opening of the Mandeville Family Court in Manchester. His call comes as Jamaica's vaccination rate continues to linger around an average of 2,000 people being vaccinated per day.
The persons who are unvaccinated, please try and think again. Misinformation, deception, fear, hesitancy is of no benefit to you now. And even if you don't think of yourselves, think of your children who hang around you. If you get infected, the children may get infected. So I urge you, exorcise that fear that you have. Because across the world, over 5 billion people have been vaccinated. 8.5 billion doses have been administered. If something was wrong with the vaccines, surely the scientists would have found out by now. We want to start all schools next year. The government would like all schools to be open next year. But in this pandemic, it's difficult. The children are at risk because of COVID-19. And I urge families that have children in their homes who will have to go to school, ensure that those who are over 12 years, 12 to 18, that they get vaccination. Because if they're not vaccinated, they're likely to get infected and may take it home, and many elderly people may suffer if they themselves also fail to get vaccination. Most of the world, 70% of their population have been vaccinated. Jamaica can't even make 20%. Not more than about 500,000 Jamaicans are fully vaccinated. For us to really put this pandemic behind us, we need another 1 million Jamaicans at least to get vaccination. And I say to that 1 million or more who are not yet vaccinated, for the benefit of our children, come forward, get vaccination. You have nothing to worry about.
Outgoing NHF chairman calls for review of Jamaica's public health system. Outgoing chairman of the National Health Fund, NHF Howard Mitchell, says urgent review is needed for the government in relation to the structure of public health system in the country. He says operations of the health system is a nightmare.
The way that we have structured the business of public health in this country is the system makes for incompetence. And I give you by way of example, the regional public health system. We have 27 hospitals, we have the southern region, we have the western region, the northern region, and all of them have duplicate functions, maintenance, procurement, accounting, administration. It makes for a nightmare of duplication and of waste and of inefficiency, notwithstanding that you have people there who have dedicated their lives to making it work, and it needs urgent review. It is part of the public health, the public sector reform that we must face, or whatever other efforts we make to strive towards economic recovery, whatever the Ministry of Finance does, and all of us, the sacrifices we make, will be lost. So yeah, I knew about this bureaucracy going in. It's not the first time I've served in the Ministry of Health. In 2016, I was appointed chairman of the foundation, of the Health and Wellness for Life Foundation. So it wasn't new to me. It is a matter of frustration to me. It is a matter that I think the citizens of this country must be aware of. The government, whichever administration is able to take it on, must take it on, because we've been kicking the can down the road for over 30 years. It gave me great satisfaction to be part of a team that consistently delivers good performance, efficiency, and has integrity in its dealings. However, you have obligations not only to your country or your government, but you have obligations to yourself, to your family, and to your own endeavors. So I could not, in all conscience. My business has suffered because of COVID. I'm in the aviation sector, and we took a real beating last year. There is still great uncertainty. So I just had no choice, and I did give notice. The organization is efficient. Nobody is indispensable. When the minister asked me to take on the assignment, I explained to him at that time that the circumstances that I was in would not allow me to manage for more than a year. Actually, we have that in writing. So that was in December of last. So the idea at that time, I had no idea that the NHF would have the responsibility of procuring vaccines or assisting with the procurement of vaccines. So that was an added excitement. But I think that excitement is over now. I think we have secured the supply lines, and that particular objective has been assured. The role is not that critical to the performance of the organization. I think the function I serve in many of these cases is to provide some kind of focal point for people to relate to, and also to communicate to the public, because we don't have enough communication in the conduct of our public service with our people. And I maybe go overboard sometimes with that, but I see that as a critical point. So, as I say, I'm flattered that it has come as a shock to people, but it wasn't unpredicted, and it was intended, and I hope that the organization is better for my having been there.
KSAMC counsel critical of JPS for alleged failure to provide adequate streetlight maintenance. Counsel for the Trafalgar Division, the JLP's Corey Douglas, is taking that the Jamaica Public Service Company JPS to task for what she says is their failure to provide adequate streetlight maintenance across several communities.
We've been having some serious concerns with the Jamaica Public Service. Over the past 6 months, I believe, there are areas that are not properly lit. We're very disappointed at the lack of service in that respect, especially since this administration, I believe, just last year undertook to clear some outstanding debt to the JPS of millions of dollars. So we expected better service and a more responsive team, but somehow we're not seeing that at this time. Nothing has happened. We have gotten absolutely no attention. The lights remain dysfunctional. The areas are very poorly lit in communities that traditionally would have been seen as volatile areas for which there could be theft. One of the things that I committed to doing very recently is that we decided that we would find contractors on the road and beg them to just come into the community to assist us with repairs, if even at an additional cost out of pocket.
Meanwhile, People's National Party minority leader in the KSAMC and counsel for the Vineyard Town Division is making a similar call to the Light and Power Company.
I did an audit of the street lights on Sir Floresville, Glasspool Boulevard. Over 80 lights are out on that boulevard. I would love for your worship, for your office to speak to JPS. Let us see if we can fix some lights even on the main roads and in the communities, and brighten up the place for Christmas. It's something that we need to do.
Tufton says preparations for potential COVID-19 fourth wave well advanced. The Health and Wellness Ministry, while urging Jamaicans not to become complacent, says preparations are advanced should the country experience a fourth wave of the COVID-19 infections. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the country's main medical oxygen supplier has given the assurance that it will be able to provide sufficient gas for 1,200 COVID-19 patients. He says sufficient staff should also be in place to manage an increase in hospitalization.
Minister Tufton says he's met with the country's medical oxygen supplier IGL and had been given the assurance recently.
We have met with the main supplier of medical oxygen in the island, IGL. Based on these discussions, we have been provided with assurances the country will be able to support a surge capacity of up to 1,200 patients in the COVID-19 beds. This is our anticipated capacity given the resources that are available in the public health system. Based on the discussions, at full capacity, we should have oxygen supplies.
He says the government's program to establish additional oxygen plants is advanced.
We have, however, built in some redundancies in the supply of medical oxygen. The government has partnered again with UNICEF, who has agreed to supply an oxygen plant that will be housed at the St. Anne's Bay Hospital and which is able to provide additional capacity, which of course will take some of the strain off IGL as the sole provider. The plant has been procured and is to arrive in the island early February 2022.
Dr. Tufton says the ministry is also in the final stages of procuring smaller plants to be established at the Spanish Town and the Savlamar hospitals. Those, he says, are to be in operation by March. But he notes the capacity to manage a surge in COVID-19 cases also requires sufficient human resources. According to Minister Tufton, the government had extended the contract of some 1,300 temporary staff, those it had hired to provide temporary health services under the National Vaccination Program. He says the contracts are extended to March.
And so I want to just reassure the public not to be complacent, but we are preparing to deal with any eventuality in the new year. The also worth commenting on is bed capacity. The final of 8 field hospitals, Lamar Hospital, in Westmoreland at Savlamar Hospital, and we're hoping to complete by the end of this month or early January next year. And this will increase our bed capacity by approximately 40 to 50 beds. And we hope that between that field hospital and the others that are currently in place, that will ensure that we have bed capacity and additional beds.
JCF received A grade in first performance audit, stated the commissioner. The Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF says it has successfully passed the first performance audit of its members. The JCF recently announced that it will be ramping up efforts to audit its members' service to the public. Speaking at the official opening of the Buff Bay Police Station in Portland on Thursday morning, Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson said the audit is a positive sign for the force. He explained that stage 1 of the auditing process has given the members confidence.
Let me just pull out one thing from it. One of the things we have to measure is our customer satisfaction. So we have to put in place, and had to put in place, a mechanism for a customer who comes to a police station at the pilot stations that we're using for certification to actually register whether the service they got was adequate or not. We just went through the stage 1 audit of ISO 9001 certification with an A grade. Now, that may not mean as much to some people as to others, but it's a very rigorous process to ensure you have quality management systems. You cannot have that without quality people. You cannot achieve that without the team, down to the last constable, doing what they should do. Normally there's a large space between your first stage audit and your second audit, which is the one that's before you're certified. The audit team that dealt with the first one that we just went through said we need to go right away to stage 2. We don't need that gap. The JCF is down the road on that.
Nasty politics and political sabotage. Manchester MP and Council trade accusations about constituency upkeep. Member of Parliament for Manchester Central, Wodamar Crawford, says some councillors in the divisions are politically sabotaging her efforts to maintain the constituency. In a revealing interview on Thursday evening, Crawford said Council for the Belfield Division, Maria Mitchell, is practicing tribal politics. But Mitchell clapped back, saying Crawford is creating mischief.
Nasty politics. Those were the words of MP Crawford, who defended her statement in a Jamaica Observer story on Monday. The Member of Parliament is claiming that some councillors are not doing enough in their divisions. She's linking the lack of work to political sabotage.
The councillor is saying he's unable to do his job because the Member of Parliament is not giving him any resources. And I tackled him about it and I asked him, how could you be telling people that when you know that MPs do not give councillors money? The state gives councillors money in the same way the state gives MPs money to get work done.
So you're claiming deliberate political sabotage?
Yes, there has been deliberate political sabotage, and I have evidence of that.
All
but
right.
Tyrone and Ricardo, I don't have the time to get into that sort of politics. I have been doing the work.
Crawford proceeded to aim her comments directly at Councillor Mitchell.
Last year, I sat with the mayor in his office, and I reached out to him to look at how we can coordinate so that we don't have to overlap the work. I sit regularly with the councillor of the Knockpatrick division, I was able to allocate funds to focus on main roads that run through that division. I would love that opportunity to sit with the other councillors. But like Mario, this kind of tribal and nasty politics that doesn't get anybody anywhere, that is what some of them are interested in. And Tyrone, I am not interested in that kind of politics.
However, the councillor quickly shut down the MP's comments. Surprised by Crawford's statement, Mitchell claims he was recently commended for his work by the first-time Member of Parliament.
Well, the MP made some strong words, and I reacted to them. But she has basically softened her tone by listening to the interview just now, because she sounded much more strident in the article, and I think she has toned down a little bit. But let me explain.
No, but are you politically sabotaging the Member of Parliament?
No, I am not. I am not. The MP was at my road opening last month with the Minister of Sports when he opened a road for Olympia, Natalia Bull, and she commended me for all the work that I have been doing. And that is on record. It is on record by both the Gleaner, by all the persons who were there online, who were there also as members of the media.
He added that MP Crawford is creating mischief.
You are maintaining that.
Mischief. And she knows quite well the work that I have done. The public knows the work that I have done. And I take offense to the statement. If you want to specifically choose somebody or specifically name somebody, do that. But those councils are not doing their work. I have gone above and beyond in my representation, and the achievements speak for themselves.
So what do you think the Member of Parliament's motives would be? If you're saying that you've been doing the work, what would be her...
That is the political victimization and the political sabotage that she's talking about.
Health and Wellness Ministry moving to make COVID-19 test kits free to the public. The Health and Wellness Ministry is moving to import self-administered COVID-19 test kits to be made available to the public for free. Portfolio Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton made the announcement recently. Minister Tufton says the technology around testing is rapidly evolving.
We are looking at the critical issues around testing. Now, you will recall that we had made some announcements around testing. However, in addition to that, the technology, the process around testing is evolving every day, every week. And there are tests that have become available on the market, approved by the critical regulatory agencies, whether it is our multilateral partner in WHO or the FDA in the US, which are now being utilized in those markets or other markets. And we are now in a position to say, with an appropriate level of advice and caution around approach to testing, that we would like to promote or encourage the use of self-administered or home test kits in a particular context and along particular protocols. We did announce some time ago that private entities could apply to get permits to import test kits, including self-administered or home kits, and in recognition of trying to encourage the possibility of self or home kits, the government has taken the decision to import a quantity of these kits that are either WHO or FDA approved. And so we're looking to import about 150,000 of these kits to be made available to the public as a public good. So at no cost to the public, the government will take on the expense of these kits.
Woman killed in Woodside Clarendon home invasion. The police in Clarendon are investigating the murder of a woman who was killed by unknown assailants at her home in Woodside last night. She has been identified as 55-year-old chef Marlene Stewart Campbell. Reports from the Mapen police are that about 8 p.m., Stewart Campbell was at home when two men entered her premises and explosions were heard. The police were summoned and she was seen face down with gunshot wounds to the upper body. The body was removed to the morgue and the crime scene was processed. The attack comes days after a family of 4, including 2 children, was shot in the neighboring Havana Heights community on Tuesday night. The father of the children succumbed to their injuries. Reporters understand that the 3-year-old remains hospitalized in serious condition. As at December 11, 101 people have been murdered in Clarendon. This is a 7.4% increase when compared to the 94 homicides that were recorded during the corresponding period last year. Or moving to verify JPS charges arising from increased fuel cost. The Office of Utilities Regulation, OR, says it has stepped in to verify the composition and compensation of certain charges as the Jamaica Public Service Company JPS warns customers about higher bills due to rising fuel charges. The Light and Power Company advised customers on Tuesday that it has been experiencing high fuel prices in the past few months as a result of the international upsurge in prices. This, it said, would lead to higher electricity bills for customers in the coming weeks as the company faces increasing fuel cost. It urged customers to conserve energy usage to limit the impact on their bills. The OR says it has received correspondence from JPS on the situation, noting that the company has attributed that the increases to the high commodity prices for oil and natural gas internationally and the devaluation of the Jamaican dollar against the U.S. currency. JPS also cited the temporary switch from natural gas to the more expensive automotive diesel oil at certain plants for a combination of reasons. The OR says it recognizes the potential rate shock to customers but is also mindful that the costs pertaining to charges by independent power producers IPP and foreign exchange rates movements are direct pass-through to customers. These are explicitly provided for in the Electricity License 2016 and the JPS rate schedule, and as such are not subject to regulatory control. However, the regulator says that it has a duty to verify the composition and compensation of such charges and how they apply to customers' bills. As such, the OR has written to JPS requesting additional information including the rates and charges applied to customer categories for November 2021 and December 2021, analysis of the increases in fuel and IPP cost arising from the switch from natural gas to and automotive diesel oil, and explanation as to why some plants switch from natural gas to automotive diesel oil. The OR said it expects to receive a request information from JPS by December 24. St. Elizabeth person of interest charged for killing taxi operator. Domain Robinson has been charged for the shooting death of a taxi operator in Southfield, St. Elizabeth on July 22, 2019. 28-year-old Robinson, who is also known as Domain Miles and Lizard, was charged following an interview in the presence of his attorney. He turned himself in last week to the police after being named a person of interest in the death of taxi operator 41-year-old Damien Day. He was also listed as a person of interest in the shooting death of 28-year-old Sandybank St. Elizabeth teacher Chanel Smith. Smith, who was a teacher at the Sandybank Infant School, was attacked near the gate of the institution as she made her way to class on the morning of Tuesday, December 8. Robinson remains in custody as the police continue their investigations into other matters. In the case of Day, Robinson has been charged with murder and conspiracy to commit murder. His court date is being arranged. It is reported that about 6:15 p.m. on the day in question, the taxi operator was reported to park in the town square when two men approached him. One of them then reported to pull a firearm and shot Day several times to the chest. He was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.